This is Beyond Busy. I'm Graham Allcott. I'm the author of a number of books, including the global bestseller How to Be a Productivity Ninja, and I'm the founder of Think Productive. We help people to make space for what matters and get more done, and we partner with some of the world's leading companies who share our mission to transform the world of work. Beyond Busy is where I explore the often messy truths and contradictory relationships around topics like work-life balance, happiness and success, and explore with interesting people what makes them tick. In short, this is where we ask the bigger questions about work. My guest today is Olivier Roland. Olivier is a French blogger and entrepreneur and the author of The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. The book has been a runaway hit in France, and now the new English language translation brings his ideas to a wider audience. So in this episode, we get geeky around learning how to develop your willpower, productivity, and designing a lifestyle to get you beyond busy and change your relationship with the news. This is Olivier Roland. I'm with Olivier Roland. Did I say that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So welcome to Beyond Busy, Olivier, and we're going to talk about your book, The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. So where are you in the world right now? Let's start with where you're at.
So right now I'm in Paris, and I will take my flight back to Dubai, where I leave tomorrow.
Okay. And I read somewhere that you travel about 6 months of the year. Is that right?
Yes, I have been doing that for like 11 years now. A little bit less in 2020, obviously.
Yeah. And do you go back to the same places? Are you always somewhere new? Like, what's your approach to moving around?
So when I started to travel really a lot, I really wanted to explore as many places as possible. But after a while, I really started to fall in love with some places. And now I see myself coming back to these places and more, or to countries too. I always say, if you say, hey, I've been to Luxembourg, you can say I've been to Luxembourg, but if you say I've been to Brazil or the US, it doesn't mean anything because it's so big. You can go like 20 times to these countries and always see something different, right?
That's true. And where do you find yourself falling in love with? Like, which are the places that you're most happy?
Quite a few places. I really love the Philippines and the island of Palawan. And on this island, there is a city called El Nido on the north that is amazing. It's like, white sand beach and coconut trees and crystal clear water, these kind of things, I really love also Jericoacoara in Brazil. It's one of the best spots in the world to do kite surf. And an amazing, small village in the middle of natural reserve. It's really amazing. Quite a few places actually, but also I love Portugal. I really love Lisbon. Yeah. It's my favorite city in Europe. I could continue for a long time. I really like quite a few places, but that, I would say it's a top 3.
Well, it sounds like we're going to be firing up the jealousy receptors in everybody's brains as you talk about the coconut trees. And there's a lot of people, including myself. Actually, I've not been on a plane since the pandemic started, partly out of choice because just the idea of having to navigate all the restrictions and bureaucracy or whatever, I've just sort of taken the decision that it's just easier to keep it simple until everything blows over. But I think there's a lot of people kind of really pining to move around and have that freedom, which I guess leads us nicely onto The Way of the Intelligent Rebel, because a lot of what you're talking about in that book essentially, it boils down to freedom. So should we start with the backstory of it? So how come you ended up with this lifestyle where you're moving around and you're running your own thing, and how did all of that come about for you?
Sure. I will try to make it a short story. I dropped school at 18 to start my first company. It was an IT company, and it was a great adventure. But, I had the typical lifestyle of a busy entrepreneur, meaning I was working 60, 70 hours a week, which was great at the beginning. At the beginning, it doesn't matter. You're just so excited about creating and growing a company that it's actually great. But after a few years, I wanted to have a bit more balance in my life. And I realized with a shock that this company I created to have more freedom in my life was actually a jail I created for myself, because I couldn't see how to sell it. I couldn't see how to spend less time in the company. I couldn't see how to, I couldn't stop it because it was my only source of income. And I felt trapped in my own business. And it was not a good feeling to have, And I looked for solution for years, and I read a book in 2008, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I'm sure you know about it, And this book gave me the goal, because it's a book about how to create an internet business that gives you a lot of freedom. And I decided to try these. I started with blogs, and the third blog I created actually was a successful blog, and I became a pro blogger because of this blog. And gradually I started to sell the assets of my first company, and I started to travel all around the world. And now, I have only an internet business. We are close to 30 people in the team, but we don't have any office. We don't have office hours. People work from wherever they want, all over the world. And I travel 6 months a year, which is awesome.
And that whole journey, so for anyone who's listening to this on podcast form rather than watching this on YouTube, I mean, you're still quite a young guy, right? So how old are you now?
Can you guess?
Oh, don't put me on the spot. I mean, I would say you're still in your 20s.
Oh, late no. Thank you very
20s,
much.
No?
Actually, I just celebrated my 41st birthday a
Are
few
you
days
serious?
ago. Yes, I know I look younger. Usually people say I'm like 35, but...
I was going to say you're like 20, 28, 29.
Wow, thank you.
Seriously?
Maybe it's the webcam too, I don't know. But I really also, I focus a lot on my health, and I try to live the longest possible with the best health possible. So maybe it helps.
Okay.
I started my entrepreneurship journey 22 years ago, 21 and a half.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Well, we'll come back to the health thing later because it's a subject close to my heart, but I don't look anywhere near as young as you, and I'm 43, so we'll come back to that later. The book had a very different title in French, which is just really satisfying. So I have to get you to repeat the French title, and then we'll talk about what is an intelligent rebel. So in France, the title was...
Okay, it's Tout le monde n'a pas eu la chance de rater ses études.
I mean, it just sounds like poetry to me. It's so nice. Yeah.
So if you translate word for word, it's like not everyone had the chance to fail at his studies, something like this. So in French, it's an amazing title. It's very hard for someone to see this title and not take the book to see what it is about. But a lot of American and British friends, said, in English it's very bad. So we had to come up with another title for the English version.
And I really like the idea of the intelligent rebel, partly because it sort of appeals to my own sense of contrarian rebellion, I guess. But do you want to just talk us through what is an intelligent rebel?
Sure. So it can be someone who has a lot of success, like a great career in a good company, a good job, a good family, a good spouse, a good house, a good car, everything. But this person feels that something is missing from the inside, This person feels that if he continues like that, something is gonna be off in his life or her life. And usually, what the little voice is saying is to experiment more creation in their life. And it can also be someone who is in the school system and doesn't feel like really well integrated into it. It can feel like a misfit, like someone that is not good because the school system is not designed for this kind of person. We can get back to that after. But basically, usually the intelligent rebel, he wants to create something new. he cannot be satisfied only by following the path that society give him, So it can be artistic creation, like writing a book, or I don't know, like a script for a theater piece. It can be the creation of an adventure, like doing a world tour for 1 year, for example, or it could be the creation of his company. And in my book, my message is first to tell the intelligent rebels, maybe you are an intelligent rebel. So if you are, good news, there is nothing wrong with you. Understand that the school system and the work system was not designed with your type of people in mind. Because when you look at the story of the school system in the Western world, it was more or less, depending on the countries, but more or less created at the end of the 19th century with one goal in mind. It was to have productive people in an industrial society, meaning good factory workers, good employees, good soldiers, So people with the knowledge to operate in a society with machines, and like very structured society, but also who was able to follow orders and not too creative, not too rebellious, because back in the days, these kind of people could actually really create revolutions. In France, for example, in 1870, which was just a few years before school was made mandatory for everyone, there was a revolution in Paris called La Commune, and it was a communist revolution that took Paris for like a few months, and it was a very bloody thing. So at the time, governments and the system was very wary, cautious about people who were going a bit too much outside of the path. But today, people who are creative, who are adventurers, who are rebels, can feel really bad in this system. And usually they will think something is wrong with them. And I'm just saying, hey, nothing is wrong with you. And it's actually a strength if you know how to play your cards right.
Yeah, and so you talk a lot in the book about the idea of lifelong learning and ways that we can think about educating ourselves, almost like despite the school system or in a very different way to the school system. So do you think there's... like some people obviously do very well at school. So do you think it's about personality type? Like what is it that distinguishes the people who really seem to gain a lot from being in that system and go through work as really good employees versus the ones who struggle or feel constrained or trapped and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's a complex situation. You can be good at school for a lot of reasons and bad also for a lot of reasons. I do criticisms of the education system, but I'm not saying that it's completely bad, and obviously there are good things to take from it. I'm just saying that it's like a human system, and like every human system, it's imperfect, and you need to be aware of the imperfections, because this school education system is so big and slow that any evolution is gonna take decades. So you cannot wait for the system to reform itself. You need to be aware of the problems and to overcome them by yourself. And one of the problems I highlight in the book is that a lot of people, they leave the education system and they don't have this habit of educating themselves regularly for their life. And it's one of the biggest failure of the system, because in the 21st century, if you don't educate yourself all the time, you're gonna be left out at some point, because society is evolving so fast that there is no guarantee your job will exist in 30 years, So you need to be aware of this, you need to stay agile, you need to become a better person every day, or at least try to do. People can be good at school if they are like the avatar the school system was designed for. But also, as I said, an intelligent rebel can be successful. It just feels like something is missing. And you see plenty of people who were doing great in school, and some of them it was because they wanted to make their parents happy. Some of them it's because they really believe in the system, but in the end they still feel something is missing. And some people can feel a bit cheated actually. They're like, hey, I followed everything the system told me to do.
I did what I was asked to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have this great diploma, this great job, this great everything, but sorry, I'm not happy. Something is missing, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the messages of the book, like maybe explore creation. What do you want to create in the world that will make you happy, and maybe will make you money, and maybe will give you some freedom to explore that more.
And there's just something inspiring about the way you talk about learning on your own terms. And one of the things that I've always struggled with in my life is learning languages. I was never good at it at school. I've always, in the years since, just whenever I visit anywhere, I just feel guilty that I don't really speak the language. I have a very basic French and a very basic German from school, and that's it. But your book kind of really inspired me to rethink that and look at learning languages. So do you want to talk about learning languages? And it feels like it's a really good example, or a really good sort of metaphor for just the general principle of continuous learning.
Sure. Obviously, all the native English speakers are at a disadvantage here, because English is the lingua franca of the world, right? So it's easy to be lazy when you're a native English speaker. All the system is rigged, so you if you are lazy, it's fine. It's still fine. You can still travel, and people will understand you. Even though I would say sometimes it's easier to be understood when you're not a native English speaker, because when you speak a perfect British or American English, for the people who speak a broken English, sometimes it's harder to get, you know. But I think language learning is not only about the ability to communicate when you travel, which is very important, and also to educate yourself. It's also another way of thinking about the world. Language is an interface between your thoughts and reality. And I'm a native French speaker. I speak good English, even though I still have a strong French accent. And when sometimes I think in English, and when I think in English, I don't think the same way as in French. You know, some things are different. And sometimes, you know, when I speak in French, the words that come to me sometimes they are in English first. Because sometimes, you know, there is this nuance, this little thing that is a little bit more well connected to reality in English than in French, and vice versa, of course. Sometimes the words in French are also better. So, for example, the word accountability in English, it's not so easy to translate in French. You need a whole sentence to convey the meaning. So that's one of the things, you know. In French, there are other words that are hard to translate in English. I don't have any in mind right now, but yeah. So it's another way of thinking. It also opens your mind. And I mean, when you learn a new language, to the point where you are able to read in the other language, you realize that a lot of content of books are not translated, you know, and you open yourself to a whole new world of culture, education, and things to learn. So, I mean, I think everyone should try to learn at least one foreign language. Obviously, the biggest factor, I think, is motivation. And you mentioned you learned some French and German at school. I mean, it's a very common story of people learning a language at school and forgetting everything, because first, maybe they don't have the motivation, they don't see why they need to learn these in the first place, and then they don't practice. So my advice would be choose the language that you have the most chance to use really in your life. Maybe because you like the country or the culture, or you have this, this ability to travel there quite often. So beside French and English, I'm also learning Portuguese because I love, as I mentioned, I love Portugal, I love Brazil. It's also easy because it's close to the French language, you know, and I really love it. And there are a lot of studies that show that people who learn, who can speak in another language, they are, more open-minded, a little bit more flexible in their way of thinking. And also it can be a protection against some disease like Alzheimer, you know. So yeah, I think it's a great way. And there are some tools today that make it a bit more fun than what was, the method of learning in school 20 years ago. I advise about some of these tools in my book.
Yeah, so let's just talk about real quickly there. So if someone was feeling motivated like I am after reading the book, where do they start? What are the tools that you'd recommend or places to start?
Well, first, you need to have a basic vocabulary, right? So for this, I recommend to use a software that follows what is called the spaced repetition system. It's like a proven, scientifically proven method that is very effective for you to learn for the long term. And there is an app for this called Moza Lingua. Maybe I can show it on my phone. So this is this app, and it works with flashcard, So here I see the word in French, and it's like le jus. So I need to remember to recall. Okay, what is the word in Portuguese? So it's o jus. Oh. Okay, I made a mistake, osuko. So I put, okay, C again, So you have four different difficulties. You have C again, difficult, yeah, I remember it well, and I remember it perfectly. Okay, dangereux is perigoso, it's dangerous. Perigoso. So here I remember it perfectly. So what happens with this? You have immediately like a selection of the cards. All the cards that you remember perfectly, maybe you will see them in 1 month. All the cards that you remember well, you will see them in 1 week. And all the cards that you don't remember so well, you will see them tomorrow or today. So very fast, you see more often the words that you have trouble to remember, which is very effective, because then you see them more often, so you can remember more efficiently. And then the software tries.
And it feels like a game, right? Like that's what's most interesting about that to me is that it doesn't have that same kind of air of sort of dryness or boringness that languages at school had. It's like, oh, cool, I've got a nice app, I'm playing a game, like it's a fun thing to do rather than a chore.
It is. And I mean, you can use these apps throughout your day very easily. When you are waiting in line, when you are waiting in the restaurant for like a coffee, when you are in the toilet, you can use it like a few minutes. It's way better than scrolling on Facebook, randomly. You just can learn a language like this with a few minutes per day. I learned 5,000 cards of Portuguese with these, and just this is enough for me to have good conversations in Portuguese. So with these kind of apps, you can learn the vocabulary. You will not speak with a perfect grammar, but it will be enough for you to be understood. Then I advise you meet a lot of as many people as you can who speak this language. It's easy, especially in big cities, to go to meetup of speakers of a language. You watch movies in this language with subtitles in your so in English if English is your mother tongue, and then in the language of the language you want to learn, and then you travel, and you try to practice as much as possible. And it's a great game. It's it's fun. It's a great way to entertain yourself when you are waiting. So there is no reason to not try to do it.
Yeah, and I love that thing that it's like an interface between your thoughts and the world, and just how it helps you to see yourself in different ways as well. One thing I want to talk about from the education bit as well is media diets. I think this is something that's on people's minds a lot. So you talk about just being very conscious of how you consume media. Do you want to just talk about your own media diet?
Sure. I compare. Most people, they just consume media without really thinking, is it necessary? Is it helpful? Is it a good thing in my life? You just do it because, it's a habit. Everyone is doing it. And there is also this assumption that to be a good citizen, you need to follow the news, And, that's one of the things I challenge in my book. I ask people, hey, are you really sure it's a good thing for you to follow the news? When you think about it, most of the news are about events that take place maybe thousands of kilometers from your place. Okay, you know about them, but what actions can you do that will make a difference? Can you make a difference at all? If not, why is it necessary for you to learn about this? So obviously right now we are in a very special moment, with the war in Ukraine. So I would say it's a kind of an exception because I think it's a bit normal to be worried about that. But most of the time, when you really take a hard look at what is the advantage of following news, you will see that most of the news, you forget them after 2 weeks, you didn't do anything about them, and it's just a waste of time and a waste of mental bandwidth. And I compare these mindless consumptions of news as going to the McDonald's every day and having bad burgers as your normal diet. It's fine to eat a burger from time to time, but you need to be careful about what you eat most of the time, because the output is determined by the input, right? So if you eat really bad food all the time, you're gonna be fat and not have energy, and maybe you will be in a bad mood. And it's the same with content. If you put bad content in your mind all the time, what the output will be, And there is this bias in the human mind that makes us really more aware of the negative news than the positive news. That's why the newspaper and the news industries is always focusing on bad stuff, because that's what gets our attention. And of course, it can be explained because back in the days when we were in the jungle, it was very important for us to be aware of the tiger, that was about to eat us. But nowadays, it's not so important. So I give a challenge, a very simple challenge in my book for people who want to try that, because when I speak about this, more often than not, I met with a lot of skepticisms. So I tell people, hey, be a skeptic, it's fine, but please be a good skeptic. Try it to see if really it's important for you or not, So for 7 days, don't follow the news at all. And use this time to do something more useful for your brain. So learn a language, read a book, etc., etc. And see after 7 days, first, did you die? Second, do you feel any difference in your life? And third, did you learn something useful that you're gonna remember in a few years compared to news you will forget in a few weeks? And usually people who do the experiments, they see that it's working very well. Then I advise to extend the experiment to 30 days and see what happens. And then if it works well for you, do it for the rest of your life. And one of the funny things is when you do that, you transform all the other people who are not doing a media diet in assistant, because all the very important news people will tell you about automatically. So it's amazing to see the world suddenly transforming into like an assistant to filter the news for you.
And what about so I have a similar approach around news myself, but what about the other bits of information that sort of infect our brains? So social media and other stuff on your phone. What's your approach around that stuff?
Well, yeah, it's harder and harder to become isolated from that. I would say be careful about what you follow on the social medias. You can create for example, on Instagram, I follow really inspiring people, like amazing entrepreneurs, artists, and this kind of stuff. I try to have a bubble of positivity and inspiration. It doesn't mean I'm like an ostrich and putting my head in the sun. It just means I want to focus on my circle of influence. There is this concept in the book, The 7 Habits of Influential People. No, I don't remember exactly the title.
Highly Effective People.
By Stephen
Covey. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's an amazing concept. It's like you have two circles. You have the circles of influence where you can really have an influence on things, and the circle of preoccupations where you have preoccupation about something, but you cannot do anything about it. Ideally, you want to focus your attention on your circle of influence. So if you are saying, hey, I'm following the news on the social medias because I want to be a better citizen, well, great. What about improving the world locally where you are? And maybe try to focus on the local news to see if you can make a difference, these kind of things. So social media can be tricky. I would say try also maybe to have different profiles. Because, for example, for me, I use social media for my business too. But maybe create another profile for your personal use too.
Yeah, I have a real sort of on-off relationship with stuff like Instagram. So at the moment, my assistant Emily is the one who posts stuff on my Instagram, and I just don't want it on my phone. I just find that once I'm on there, it becomes this kind of mindless scrolling very quickly. So I kind of have it on there for 3 days. get some enjoyment out of it, and then delete it when I need to do some work. And I use Freedom quite a lot, the app Freedom, to just kind of block out a lot of that stuff as well, which feels like quite a good segue into the subject of willpower, which you cover in the book. So willpower and habits. So it turns out that willpower is something that you can treat as a muscle, and you can learn and train your brain to have more willpower.
Yes, so it's like scientific studies that came out in like the year 2000s. So it's an evolving field, you know. There was some studies that criticized these like a few months ago. So it's evolving all the time. But basically, the idea is, you can train your willpower, and you can use exercise. Like you go to the gym to exercise your body, you can exercise your willpower too. One of the exercise, and I think it's very fun exercise to do. You know, it's very interesting, and everyone can do it. You buy a sweet that you really like, can be chocolate or anything, you know, like a sweet that usually when you see it, you really want to eat it right now. So you buy one or a few ones, you know, and you put it in a very prominent place in your home, or it can be at your office too. It can be close to your computer, like somewhere where you will see it, you know. And the goal is to not eat it for quite a long time. So you can start with 2 days if it's very hard for you. You can start with 1 week. You can start with 2 weeks. Depends of what you think will be the challenge for you.
Can I start with 2 hours?
You can if you want. I mean, it's baby steps, man. You know, if you can't do more than 2 hours, start with 2 hours. You know, and then try to improve all the time. So after the time, you can eat it if you want, or you can give it. It's up to you. You know, at the start, maybe eat it. It's like the gift because you did the challenge. And then try to improve these, and it's gonna be a good training for you to you will still feel the not the need, the want to eat it, but you will respect this feeling less. You will be like, okay, I feel I want to eat that, so what? I don't have to act on it. You know, it's just a feeling, I don't care. And I think it's a really, really good training that is gonna give you a lot of benefits in your life. I think it's also transferred to fear, because fear is also a signal, and a lot of people are paralyzed by fear, and you can learn to respect less the signal of fear and to be like, okay, I'm afraid, so what? I can be afraid and still do it anyway, you know? And then it opens a whole new world of possibilities.
That's really interesting. And you talk in the book about habits as well, and how you can review your habits and plan to create better ones. You want to just talk about? I'd love to just hear like some examples from your own life. Like what have you done that's really worked well for you in terms of reviewing habits and then replacing them with better ones?
Sure. So I mean, it's an ongoing battle. You know, it's not because you manage to replace a bad habit by a good one that it's a win forever for the rest of your life. You need to always be aware of your trends. You know, one of the things. I mean, before this media diet, I was consuming a lot of news like everyone, and it was so amazing for me to replace this by the fact of reading books and learning a language. I mean, the Portuguese, now I can speak very good Portuguese, not very good Portuguese, and I just took some time that I would have taken to consume the news. So it's such a great win when you think about it. And there are so many things like this, you know. So I advise people to make a list of the bad habits they have in their life. I mean, by bad, it can be, you know, it depends what are your goals, you know. But for example, I don't know in the UK, but in France, people watch TV like 4 hours a day on average. It's crazy. When I say TV, it can be also like, you know, Netflix and this kind of stuff, which is so high when you think about it. I'm sure in the UK it's close to this, you know, I don't know. But maybe if you watch TV for 3 hours or 4 hours a day, try to lower it by 30 minutes. And instead of doing this, read for 30 minutes, you know. It doesn't have to be 1 or 0. You can just, you know, adjust a little bit the threshold. You can also, I mean, if you smoke, maybe try to lower the amount of cigarettes you smoke every day, or ideally you stop to smoke. If when you come back from home from the work and you just scratch on your bed, maybe try to you give yourself like 10 minutes of being a potato coach, and then go to do some sport for 5 minutes. I give in my book the 7 minutes workout. I share it, which is a great way to do sport without taking much time. It really takes 7 minutes a day. So try to do this at least once a week when you start, then twice a week. And very fast you can just replace a bit of bad habits by good habits, and it's gonna make a hell of a difference in your life. It's also the concept of this book. What is the name? That like small changes after a while, it creates a world of difference. If you replace just one part of pizza you eat every week by a salad, after a few years, it can make a big difference in your health, how you look, your energy, etc., etc.
And there's something really appealing about that too, isn't there? Because if let's say someone is watching 3 or 4 hours of TV every evening, it's like the chances are, some of that is people watch TV because it's the easiest thing, but often it's like, that's the highlight of somebody's day, isn't it? It's like watching the Netflix series or whatever. So going from 4 hours to 0 hours just feels, it feels almost like cruel. It feels too much of a big change. And so I think the idea of just these small changes, there's that book where it sort of talks about remember the title of the book, but it's like the idea is like 1% incremental change. So if you just every day just get better by 1%, then, over the course of a year, that's an exponential change. But at the time, it always feels small. So I really like that approach, just take half an hour of that TV time and turn it into a book, or, 5 minutes of exercise, like making these things really easy for yourself in the beginning, and then you've got something to build on. It's just like, it's such a good approach, isn't it, to that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and make it an experiment, make it fun, and you can make your whole life an experiment. I think it's very exciting to do it, I'm always looking for new experiments to do in my life. For example, so it's been like 3 years and a half I'm doing the intermittent fasting, so I skip breakfast. And but like last year I was like, hey, it's been 2 years and a half I'm doing this. What about I do a 30-day challenge where I will eat a breakfast every morning to see if there is a difference, So sometimes you can do a reverse test also to see if it's good for you to continue the habit. And this year I'm doing a challenge of doing 2 days and a half fast every quarter, and to do a 4 or 5 days fast in the year. So I like
2.5 days with continuously with no food.
No food, yeah. I can drink water. I can drink water. Okay. I'm not supposed to drink coffee, but usually I drink coffee. It's my little, cheat. But coffee without sugar, no calories at all. Fasting is a great example. A lot of people think it's super hard to do, and a lot of people have misconception about it. They think like if they don't eat for 2 days, they're gonna, sleep all day long. But it's not like this, and it's very easy for everyone to try to fast for 24 hours. Super easy. I think anyone can try it. Obviously not some people with some disease, so maybe check with your doctor first. But that's an example of like something like most people are afraid to do, or they don't think they can do it. And when they try, they see it's not just such a big deal.
Yeah, and the easy version of fasting is to go back to, so the word breakfast is, the idea is breaking fast, right? And so the original idea was that you would have like a 12-hour fast before you eat breakfast. So basically, if you have breakfast at 7 a.m., the last thing you eat should be 7 p.m. and then you have that 12 hours. And so that's one of the things that, so I wrote this book with Colette Hennigan, who's a nutritionist here, How to Have the Energy. And one of the things about energy was, if you have that 12-hour fast every 24, it just allows for that like recovery in your digestive systems and stuff. So there's the kind of easier way that everybody can do it if doing it for 24 hours kind of feels like it's a bit too much. Shall we just move on? I just want to talk about the idea of happiness. So I'm really interested in the kind of interface between sort of productivity and happiness and work-life balance. And we talk a lot about that on the podcast. And one of your things around happiness is to be in control of your own destiny, and coming back to that freedom thing again. But do you think to be happy, you have to have your own business?
I mean, it depends. For me, I think it will be hard for me to be this happy without a business, But of course, it's not the case for everyone. So no, you don't need to have a business to be happy. But it depends. I think for some kind of people, you will be always less happy than you could be if you don't work for yourself. If you don't create something that you are proud of. So it's not mandatory, but I think in a lot of cases it can really increase it. But okay, also don't get me wrong. Most people, when they create their company and they grow it, they do it the wrong way. They become the slave of their business, and it can be a great way to be unhappy. I lived it, so I can speak from experience. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they are at the end they are just burned out. And they want to exit the stuff as fast as possible. So you need to be careful, obviously. It's not like a magic trick, right? But if you do it the right way, I think it's possible to have a business that is in service of your life. If you can have this, you have so much more freedom than the average person, that, I don't know, you have more time and opportunities to explore what you love, to know yourself better, and to find something that fulfills you from the inside. I'm sure you've heard of the Japanese concept of Ikigai, right? Do you know Ikigai?
Well, you talk about it in the book, right?
Very fast. I mean, it's like it's a very interesting Japanese concept. It's like at the cross path of four things. So you find your Ikigai. You can translate by I don't know, in French it's raison d'être. You say that in English too, right? Raison d'être, like your reason to live, basically, to be. Your reason to be.
We adopted that one, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So and you find it if you have four things. If you do something that you're passionate about, that makes you money, that you are skillful about, and that is your mission in life. Mission in life is what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. If you have a business, or it can be a career or whatever, that have these four things, you find your Ikigai, your reason to be. And it's not easy to find. So
that's like the middle of the Venn diagram. Like you have to, it's like circles, exactly. Is the way it's often expressed, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think if you find your Ikigai, it's so much easier to be happy, right? Because, I mean, everything is aligned. I think actually there is something missing in this concept, is time. Because you can be passionate about, I don't know, like surfing, if you do it 10 hours a week, but if you do 30 hours a week, you will just hate the thing, So there is also this concept of balance. And also time on the long, term, like maybe after 10 years, you want to do something else, So you also want to have these in mind. But yeah, I think the Ikigai is a great, like, northern star to have, like this goal to try to reach. My first business was not an Ikigai. I was passionate about computers. I was good with them. I was making money with them, but it was not my mission in life. I was not feeling like super connected to the idea, okay, let's make the world a better place by making the computer of people better. I was not so excited about this. Now I have my Ikigai because I'm helping people to create and grow their business and be more free, and everything is aligned. And it took me 10 years to find it. So it's fine if your first business idea or your first adventure or creation is not your Ikigai, but to have this in mind is, I think, a great way to try to improve your happiness in the long term.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because often people ask themselves that question. Am I living to work or working to live? And it sounds like you might answer both with that question. Would that be right?
Yeah. I mean, there is this very famous Confucius quote that says, hey, if you find a work you love, you will never work for the rest of your life. And you can hear that a lot. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it. But when you look around you and you ask yourself, okay, how many people I know are really passionate about what they are doing? you see most of them are not so passionate about their job, unfortunately. And when you look at the stats, there was a big poll about with 200,000 people all over the world, and I don't remember the numbers, but they are at the beginning of my book. It's like maybe 15% of people are passionate about their job on average, which is very bad when you think about it. And maybe it's 15 also people who hate their job, which is also bad. I mean, and then there is a middle who, I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's fine, it's good, okay, why not, which I don't think it's a good place to be. I mean, it's comfortable, and I speak about concrete sleepers in my book. I don't know if you remember it, but a lot of people have these concrete sleepers. They are comfortable, but it's also paralyzing, and they feel something is off, because they are like stuck in this comfortable life, and they are a bit afraid, or very afraid, to disrupt it.
Yeah, the concrete slippers thing is interesting, and I suppose this is like, so because you talk about the 4-hour work week and the effect that had on you. I read that at a similar time, when that first came out, and I think I'd already read the E-Myth, Michael Gerber's book, which is just a very influential book around setting up a business, and essentially his main sort of message that I took from that book anyway is about like how you define the roles in your business so that you can delegate stuff out, and then that allows you to grow and scale, and you have that mindset of a sort of franchisee as you're doing it. But like, it sort of strikes me that with the concrete slippers and with all of that, it's easier to do that the younger you are, and like the less sort of like the more ability you have to have energy to put loads of hours in, the less, I think you even say at one point in the book, like, the less dependencies you have, like if you've got kids and a mortgage and, a partner and so on, like it's just harder to do that kind of stuff. So what do you say to those people? I was kind of lucky myself to be able to do a lot of what you're talking about in the book at a younger age. But if I was starting now, it would just feel, irresponsible to be taking those kind of risks. So like, what do you think about someone who's listening to this who maybe is slightly later in life? How do they start?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think it's true in most cases that the longer you wait, the harder it is. But it doesn't mean it's impossible, and it doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, I started very young at 18. So yes, I didn't have a lot of things to lose, but also I didn't have any money. I didn't have any experience. I was very naive, I was a teenager. And I didn't have any network. I didn't know anyone. So in a way, it was harder to start at 18 than at 40. Yes, I had less to lose, but also I didn't know anything about life, And if, like a teenager, I didn't know how to dress well. I had this geek with big glasses, this geek look. I was so shy I couldn't talk to girls. So if a shy teenager can drop school and create his company so young, I'm sure you have way more advantages than him. So I'm sure you can do something too. But what I advise, there are basically two big schools of thought in entrepreneurship about the risk-taking method. There are the people that say, hey, you need to burn your ships. So you have only two options. Either you succeed or you die, basically, or you end up in the street with no money. And people who advise this method, they say, if you do this, you will be very motivated to succeed, which is true. But also, I think I don't like this approach because I think it's too risky. The second approach that I advise that and I use in my life is to take measured risk, okay, small risk, and risk that are not gonna disrupt your life. So it can seem crazy to drop school at 18 to start your first company, but I didn't do it like this. I didn't wake up one morning and said, okay, I will drop school today. I did an experiment to see if my idea of having an IT business was a good one. We had this idea with a friend because we saw that a lot of people were asking us to solve their computer problems, and we were solving it like this, very easily. And we didn't say, okay, let's drop school and do a business plan and start a company. No, we were like, okay, how can we be sure we can make money with this idea? So we did a very simple experiment. We paid like 10 euros for a small ad in a local newspaper, and to do some advertising for our services. And in 1 month, we made 800 euros, which is not so much. But at the time, we were teenagers. We had maybe 10 euros of pocket money every week. So for us, it was crazy. And we saw it was profitable. We saw the customers, they were happy with our services. They were giving us money. And we saw we had the skills to do that. And I would never have dropped school so young without this experiment. These experiments gave me the confidence that I could do it. And that's why I advise people to do. What experiment can you do in your life that will give you confidence to move forward? And ideally this experiment, it should not take so much time, energy, and money to do. And nowadays with internet, you can do so many experiments. I did the same thing when I switched my focus from my IT business to my internet business. I didn't stop or sell my IT business like this, I was like, okay, maybe this web business is a good idea, maybe not. What I will do is create these blogs. At the same time, I'm still managing the company. And of course, I did that. I needed to do some sacrifice, because I was already working a lot in my company. But, I didn't disrupt my life. I didn't stop what I was doing. I just added a small experiment to see if it was working. And it worked. And when it started to work, then I started to sell the first company piece by piece. And, I did things very gradually. That's what I advise people to do. That's the same thing as what we talked about previously about habits. Start small, It's too scary and overwhelming to change like bad habits, like 4 hours of TV per day, like suddenly, Start small and build on this.
It's really true, isn't it? And Elizabeth Gilbert has a lovely analogy where when she's talking to people about their careers and choices and stuff, she says, don't ask what do you want to do, ask what do you want to do that you're prepared to eat the shit sandwich that goes with it. And so it's like, if you, I want to be a lawyer. Okay, do you want to work 90 hours a week for the next 20 years? Well, no, not really. I want to be a circus performer. Yeah, but do you want to risk getting injured? So it's finding the thing that you're prepared to sort of live with, whatever sacrifice goes with it. And like often when I'm talking to people, in their 40s, 50s, and it's like they're in an employment wage job, and they're sort of they're looking and exploring about the idea of a business. Like often the first place I start when I'm talking to them is to say, how cheaply can you live for the next couple of years? And, is that something that you're prepared to do to make this happen? Because I often think like that's really the key test, isn't it? Like, I think you say it in the book for yourself, and it's true for me, that you don't really pay yourself a lot in the first couple of years as you're getting stuff going. So you have to sort of give yourself that sort of cushion in a way that minimizes the risk, right?
Absolutely, yeah. When you start, you put your knife between your teeth, and you try to put all your chances with you. To have better odds, So yeah, don't give yourself a good salary. At the start, you have to work a lot, Then you will, when it starts to work well, you can think about how to have a better balance between your professional life and your personal life, etc., etc.
Yeah, for sure. And then the final question I was going to ask you just before we finish. So the book is The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. And when you wrote it in French, that was 5 years ago. So I just wanted to know, what have you learned about business or about your own life in that 5 years, so that when you came to do the translated version, like what's new in there that you wouldn't have known 5 years ago?
So I did a second edition of the French book in 2019. So I updated some things, and the English version was also, I adapted a lot of things. So it's based on the 2020 manuscript. So it's not so so old. For a long time, I have been in a very awesome place because since 2012, I make more money than I can spend. I inspire thousands of people every month. I travel all over the world. I have this freedom that people who makes more money than me don't have, and I feel very blessed about it. and still my business is growing, and I mean, I'm learning a lot of things, but I don't feel the need so much to do it because I mean, I'm a continuous learner, so it's kind of a habit for me anyway. But one of the things I learned in 5 years is to delegate even more. I know I talk a lot about delegation in my book, but when I first wrote it, I didn't have a right arm. I didn't have like how do you say in English, like a CEO, and now I have one, and it's such a game changer. And actually, she lives in London. I live in London for 3 years. Yes, I live in London for 3 years. I really liked it actually, and I met her in London, and she's great. She's a French, but living in London. She has been living in London for 20 years, and she's also perfectly bilingual, which I like. So just to have a CEO, now she manages the team, she recruits people. We are more or less 30 people right now. I told you, not everyone works full time. So if I would aggregate everyone into full-time person, maybe it would be 15, something like this. Yeah, it's just so much better to have a general manager in your company that manage people for you. Before, I could procrastinate for months. I knew I needed someone in my team, and I would procrastinate for months the recruitment, because I just hate the process of recruiting people, of doing the talks and stuff. And now I just say to Elizabeth, hey Elizabeth, we need this profile. Can you recruit someone, please? And she does it, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Delegation, and if that's something that's available to you, do more of it. I think that's a really good lesson if you're in that situation. Olivier, thank you so much for being on Beyond Busy. Where do people connect with you and find out more? I know you've got lots of stuff out there online. Like, what do you want to sort of point people towards?
So for English speakers, I have a small YouTube channel called Olivier Roland English. And of course there is my book, The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. And for people who speak French, you can easily find a lot of resources if you type my name in Google.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on Beyond Busy.
Thank you, Graham. It was a blast.
This video is sponsored by Think Productive, home of the Productivity Ninja. We help people and organizations to increase their impact and make space for what matters through a range of workshops, programs, and coaching. Head to thinkproductive.com to find out more. Are you interested in booking me as a speaker for your event? You want to sign up for my Rev Up for the Week email? Do you want to buy some of my books? Or do you just want to find out what I'm doing right now? It's all at grahamallcott.com/links. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share so we can make more. Thanks for watching.